Once the league moves past the concept/infancy stage and moves forward towards logistics, then he'll be able to provide more consistent data in regards to venues and revenue, how much he'll be able to pay the players, broadcast rights, things of that nature. But when things are in their early concept stages, you can't expect right and exact information on how they're going to pay people and where the games are going to be held. But the fact that he can conceive an idea like this, which many other people were not brave enough to do, once again shows you his great business acumen.
You'd be surprised. There are parents who will do it. You'd be surprised.
Of course there are parents who will do it. Because there are thousands, if not millions, of parents who have children who they believe can possibly become basketball stars, as delusional as it might be, who will be willing to send their sons to his league and give their sons exposure. Also with the understanding that their sons are going to get paid and not have to go through the rigmarole of trying to act as if their sons are interested in being educated when they're not. Believe me, and I've said this already, the college system is not for everyone. And just like college is a possibility for certain people, for others, they may be more interested in learning a craft. For some, basketball is the craft that they want to fully indulge themselves in or immerse themselves in. So Lavar Ball's league will definitely have takers. I have no doubt about that.
Let me push back a little bit also. The NFL's brand is great.
Well, the NFL's brand was great. The NFL's brand is not as unassailable as it once was. The NFL is still in its prime, but it's at the end of its prime right now. Okay? The NFL's prime kind of started at the very end of the Pittsburgh Steelers dynasty in the late 70s. Then you had the 49ers who took it up to another level. The 90s you had the Dallas Cowboys. The 2000s you had the New England Patriots, so on and so forth. Some other teams sprinkled in, but they're at the end right now of their prime. And with the CTE issue, the race/social justice issue, and a lot of the instability that's been caused with the Harvey Weinstein social engineering program that is now touching the NFL, particularly with the Carolina Panthers owner, the NFL has seen its best days, and it is at the end of its prime.
The NCAA's brand is awful.
Yes, it is awful. And that's why it's so interesting that Colin Cowherd believes that he believes that LeVar Ball's league is not going to have takers. Believe me, LeVar Ball's league is going to have people who are both going to be willing to send their sons there, as well as invest in the league. There's no doubt about that. He may even be able to form a girls' league.
People are out on NCAA and amateur.
Would you send your kid to Big Baller?
No. No, we talking about the idea, not who's going to execute. Yeah, but
well, first off, you have to be able to get an erection to have a child. All right. Whitlock can't even see his penis. Give me a break.
Yeah, but the idea doesn't make any sense if he's spearheading.
I would agree, but again, is the idea absurd?
How could the idea not make any sense just because LeVar Ball is spearheading it? That shows you that many people don't know how to disassociate their own personal opinion about someone from a concept that is extremely feasible.
No, the person that's trying to execute it is absurd. If Kobe Bryant wanted to try to start something like this...
Okay, that's different.
No, it's not different. It's not different because Kobe Bryant is a very intelligent man, but he's also shown himself to be a sociopath, which is something that people who are highly intelligent oftentimes tend to have that sociopathic element to their personality. Now, exactly on what part of the sociopathic scale Kobe Bryant is, I'm not really fit to say that, but he's definitely shown certain sociopathic elements, which would make it hard for him to form a league for the benefit of young people. Now, as we all know, he gives advice to many of the younger players, sure, but there's a big gulf between that and forming a league for high school kids. LeVar Ball is pretty plugged into the AAU system. He understands how it's run. He has a lot of connections with a lot of different aspiring young basketball players. If you follow what he's done personally, he's taken a lot of kids off the street. Despite the public persona that he has, a person of bluster and pomp, he is very caring. That's obvious. And that will translate over into his business.
That's different.
Or, LeBron James or the NFL.
But by the way, even if Kobe did, like Derek Jeter owning the Marlins, everybody's like, Derek Jeter's not rich in terms of a baseball owner. He's rich in terms of people or athletes. Like, if Kobe did it, if said Kobe, I'm going to take the NCAA on, even Kobe would have to go to a bank, a hedge fund. LeVar Ball, you're going to walk into a hedge fund and say, hey, it's just me.
How do you know that LeVar Ball has to walk into a hedge fund? You have no idea what type of connections LeVar Ball has. LeVar Ball gets a lot of love from the streets, man. See, people like Colin Cowherd, and I like Colin Cowherd's commentary. I like the commentary of everyone on this panel, even though I get on these people when they deserve to be gotten on. They start to sniff their own fumes a little too much, and they really start to believe that the narrative that they create is accepted by the people and the public at large. There are demographics and strata of the American society who will look at a person like a LeVar Ball, and they'll look at him strictly as an asset, someone who has connections to the streets, someone who has a good and sharp business mind, business acumen, someone that you can make a partner, someone that you would be willing to invest in some of his ventures because he has shown that he's someone who knows how to create something out of nothing. That's how people evaluate possible business partners. They don't look at them and say, oh, well, I don't like what he said, and I don't like all that stuff is for TV. Real business people, they only look at you as you can either provide me with revenue or you can't. And I guarantee you that there are affluent people behind the scenes who look at a man like a LeVar Ball and will be willing to provide connections for him, to give him $1 million here, $1 million there. I have no doubt about it.
He can't even get the door in. But Kobe could. Kobe could. This is...
You like the idea, you don't like the person now.
Absolutely.
But you like the idea.
Yeah,
but what does that even say? You don't like the person, but you like the idea. Who cares? None of you on the panel are investors.
The idea of it, there's some merit to it. I don't think this is there's some merit to it.
The basic concept of it, I kind of can understand and see why some people would be attracted to it. But this is not the guy that you have run this kind of program. And I said the same thing. Where's this guy getting his money? Or is he just delusional that he thinks that this could work?
Yeah, he's so delusional that he has a multi-million-dollar mansion out in California that he purchased before Lonzo even got his check. It's very clear that that LeVar Ball is generating revenue, whether you guys like it or not. Somehow he's generating revenue. He's grinding. Nobody knew that he was going to China to establish a pop-up shop out there in China before his middle son was arrested. The man had his own business even before basketball. So it's very interesting that they are so inquisitive in regards to where he's getting his money. Don't worry about it.
And I've got to think he's got some celebrity backers. So
Absolutely. See, even Christine Hiret-Millet had a moment of clarity. It's very obvious that LeVar Ball has people who have his back.
somehow giving him money
The
behind the
celebrities
scenes.
have that kind of money?
I don't know. It's confusing to me.
How much money do you think that he needs in order to form a league in between high school and the pros? I mean, how much money do you think that he's going to need? He doesn't need $1 billion. He's from the hood. He knows how to make things happen from nothing. There's no doubt about that.
It's
How do you
like,
think he
to
has
me,
money?
it's almost like Colin Kaepernick saying, I want in on the ownership group. They have no concept of wealth. And again,
Well, let me say this. I partially agree with Whitlock when he says what he says about Kaepernick. Kaepernick really just wants to jump in to keep his name in the news, and also so that he can feel like he's part of a group that's going to bring more confusion into the NFL. As I told you guys for a very long time, Colin Kaepernick is an agent of chaos. He's going to constantly try to keep his name tied with the NFL. He does not want to move on because he wants to make sure that he destroys the NFL. They want to make the NFL a woke league by any means necessary. But in regards to LeVar Ball, LeVar Ball's concept of money starts from nothing. So no, he's not someone who is thinking on the level of a multi-billionaire. No. But his concept is, if you give me a nickel, I could turn it into a dime. If you give me a dime, I could turn it into a quarter. If you give me a quarter, I could turn it into a dollar, so on and so forth. Keep flipping it until we build and build and build and build. And that's how everyone's mindset has to be, particularly if you start from nothing. So does he have the a mindset, a business mind equivalent to Steve Ballmer or Bill Gates? No, but he doesn't need to, because I'm sure that his aspirations are not to necessarily be a billionaire. It's just to be self-defined. And there's nothing that, that anyone's going to be able to do to change or controvert that. So you have to get over it.
And the reason I can say that is because I used to be young, and I can remember when I was 27, and I think the Kansas City Star paid me $120,000, and I thought, like, my God, I'm right there with Donald Trump.
Well, here's where you're mistaken, Whitlock. You tried to equate yourself with LeVar Ball because of the amount of money that someone else gave you. So that showed that you still don't get it. The mindset that LeVar Ball has is to be his own boss. It's never to be thankful for how big a check he got from someone else. It's for him to be able to write himself a check. So in LeVar Ball's mind, writing himself a check for $50K is bigger and better than you accepting a check for $120K from someone else. Because in his mind, he understands that when you accept a check from someone else, you must do what they say. You're only allowed to be yourself based on the amount of room and space that they give you to express yourself. If they constrict that space, then you have to constrict who you are. And if they tell you to change or stop doing something, you must adhere to what they say because they are your boss, they're your master. So once again, Whitlock is associating LeVar Ball's thought process with money. And no, money is a product of the thought process. It's not the thought process itself. LeVar Ball is trying to promote a mindset of being a producer. Okay? He wants to be a producer. He does not want to be somebody who is just who's just a customer. And a lot of so-called black people, particularly so-called black males, have the mindset of a customer, what they call a useless eater.
Well, because again, I came from nothing, and so 120,000 at 27 felt like the greatest thing. And LeVar, his T-shirt company, is putting a little money in his pocket, and he feels rich.
You're going to take, I don't know if it's coming out of Lonzo's paychecks or whatever he's making from Big Baller Brand, but buying your teenagers Lamborghinis at that age too?
I will say this, he's done a good job.
Once again, these people have their hands in his pocket. Why are you worried about what type of cars he's getting for his children? What makes you think that he had to go into Lonzo's paycheck? First off, they don't want him to have his own business. But when he spends money, they assume that he must have gotten the money from Lonzo. So if he didn't have his own business, they would have been sure that he was taking money from Lonzo. But when all these other athletes go and get and hire agents, and the agent is taking all their money, that's not an issue. And all those athletes have the same problem with having to spend money on their family and on their so-called homeboys. But no one is against that paradigm. Isn't that interesting?
Good job of challenging conventional wisdom, right? With the sneaker industry, I'm going to go up against Under Armour, Nike, Adidas. Now he's challenging the NCAA. And you guys made a good point. There's a kernel of an idea here, right? The NCAA, we agree, is corrupt. You've been on a rant for years, and I'm right there with you. They make billions of dollars in TV money, and the athletes see none of it, okay? So there are a large segment of people who could be on board with this idea. But like I said, I mean, Christine, I totally agree with you. He's not the guy for the job. He is the worst front man you can imagine, from ego to his mouthiness to some of the comments he's made about women and other, like
He's never made any comments about women. What he has done is stand up to the attempt by the feminine principle to overcome him. He's not having that. And this is why that's the real reason why the mainstream sports media is upset with him, because he's not going along to get along with the feminazi army that is being pushed and propelled on males in America. He's not having that. And his wife does not try to overcome him. She understands that her job is to complement him, not compete with him. Once again, that's why so many of these females in America are on prescription drugs, because they're more concerned with competing with men than trying to complement the man. They don't really want happiness, right? They get their satisfaction out of trying to stir up chaos and controversy.
He's not the guy you want, but there is an idea here. And I will say this, like, I started a blog back in the day. You guys know that. And there was an idea at the beginning, and I would tell people, I'm starting a blog. And my wife's parents looked at me like, what is that? I don't understand it. But there was an idea for the blog, and it grew and it matured. And I think this league, with the right people and the right backing, could have something. There could be something here. You know?
Yes. In other words, take the so-called black man's idea and try to apply it somewhere else. And I think I may have touched on this in a different video, but even the famous whiskey company, Jack Daniels, has recently admitted that their process for distilling their whiskey came from a so-called black man, not from Jack Daniels. Yeah, it came from a so-called black man named Nearest Green, Nearest, last name Green, Green. He's a so-called black man in the mid-1800s who was able to develop a high-level distilling process for their whiskey. And they only recently came out and acknowledged that he's the one who created that process. That shows you, once again, black men, that's why I always say you have to write your own history. We have to be our own historians. You can't look at the other races to provide you with the truth about yourself, because they will never tell you. They'll use any excuse to try to take credit away from you. That's why you cannot base your value on their acceptance, man. You can't allow yourself to be defined by them. These four people basically sat around for 15 minutes on their little segment, lauding LeVar Ball for his great idea, because they had to admit it was a great idea. But let's find a way that we can take it from his authority, because we don't think he's good enough to commandeer an idea like this. We have to put it in the hands of, and that's why they kept naming Kobe and LeBron, because they knew they couldn't name a Caucasian because it would have looked too blatantly racial. So they had to name two people in Kobe and LeBron. Number one, Kobe is a sociopath. He's not thinking about a league for kids. Number two, LeBron is too obsessed with himself. He may do it just for good promotion for himself, but that's about it. LeVar Ball has shown through his track record that he actually cares about people, and not for the sake of promotion. He understands how the AAU circuit is run, so he knows who the top prospects are. So you're not going to be able to get LeVar Ball out of your face. That's obvious. So you're going to have to get used to the three-dimensional thinking black man. Every so-called black man's not here to be slave-minded. Once again, I'm not quote-unquote pro LeVar Ball. I don't know him. But the mindset is something that I will always extol. It is what it is. People can get offended by it. I really don't give two shits.
You know, what's interesting is he's not necessarily taken on the NCAA. To your point, he's taken on the NBA because I think the NBA wants to do this.
The NBDL, the G League.
Oh,
Well, that's not a bad take. The NBA may have wanted to do an intermediary league in between high school and the pros, but they did not want to step on the NCAA's toes, because they're both multi-billionaire, basically business partners. LeVar Ball does not really have a horse in the race with either league, but he does have the notoriety to promote something like this. So he could be the one, and who knows? The NBA may come. They may come on the back streets and say, "Hey, LeVar, look, we'll put up a little money, and this is what you can do for us."
Afraid of him.
No, I'm not afraid. What I'm saying is his idea is something I think Adam Silver talks about all the time, which is why are we messing around with college? Why don't we just create a European system for 16-year-olds?
Yeah.
And once again, as Colin Cowherd just said, over in Europe, it's very common for young men who want to play professional basketball to go straight from high school to the professionals. It's not a big deal. I get all these Negroes who come in my comments. Oh, well, what about their education? Look, 9 out of 10 of you people who come on talking about education, and it's no disrespect, a lot of y'all go to college and don't even know what the hell you're talking about half the time. College is great for you to learn a certain skill that you want to pursue as a career after college. It does not make you informed. It just doesn't. For For the people who want to go there to spend 4 years, quote unquote, trying to find themselves, that's great. That's their prerogative. But let's not try to make it like it's this essential part of life that everyone must embrace. And that's just not the case. What college is for is to introduce young people, number one, into low-level Luciferianism, because that's what the college system is based off of, the Babylonian Kemetic system of the groves. That's literally what the term academy means. The term academy means a grove. Academia means a grove. And the university system is set up in the same manner as the ancient groves were. That's why you have the college courtyard. That's why you have the trees that are meant to have the branches that interlock overhead when you go and sit out in the college courtyard. Right? When you graduate, you get your bachelor's or your baccalaureate. Right? It comes from the term Bacchus, baccalaureate. But that I've gone into that already. Point being, it's not the end of the world if somebody does not go to college if they already have another focus. Right? As of right now, and I've mentioned this before, this society needs more craftsmen, more people who are single-minded and focused on a certain task or a certain craft that they can master. Everyone does not have to go to college for 4 years and spend their time smoking weed and running trains on whores.
Yes. I think his idea is something years ago the NBA's thought about.
I do think it's something they thought about, and particularly it works for the NBA because their kids are only staying 1 year in college. But there are advantages to the NCAA system.
Yes.
It's free. The kids do come with a bit of a brand to the NBA.
Yeah.
Yes, and almost none of them are actually getting a college degree, because if you stay in college for 4 years, the overall sentiment is, why were you there for 4 years for? There must be something wrong with you. So let's stop with the let's go to college so that we can get an education bullshit. Okay? That's all it is a bunch of bullshit.
Lavar's league, what he's talking about, I don't know if they would draw much media attention other than people mocking it. And so...
Well, the mainstream media would try to mock it, but Lavar would get enough support by the quote unquote street level or quote unquote hood level of support that he would get, that it would counteract the mainstream media. And pretty much after a while, you guys will be scared to speak on it because you'd be afraid of looking racist. That's how that would go, or that's how that probably will go once he gets his league running.
Again, there's a kernel of an idea here that someone could potentially capitalize on it, but this is clearly just coming out. Lavar is frustrated because he jacked up both his two youngest sons' basketball careers.
And they've been embarrassed.
Yeah, he jacked up his two young sons' basketball careers so much that right now they're both making more money than any of these college recruits, and they will most likely make more money over the next 10 to 15 years than 99% of the current college basketball players. Once again, for all intents and purposes, the mainstream media stated, and LeVar Ball stated himself, that they and he both did not believe that his middle son was an NBA player. So how could he have jacked up anything? No one gets upset when Boris Becker and Jennifer Capriati come into tennis at 14, 15, 16 years old. Right? No one got upset by that. If LeVar Ball decides that he wants to enter his son into a basketball apprenticeship, then that's what he decides that he wants him to do. I stated in a previous video, people of other races, they have their children work at the family business during the summertime. Nobody says, oh, how could you make them do that?
That's what I really just don't understand is...
Well, you don't understand a lot of things.
...is that he gets this pass and people think he's this great father because he got his 3 kids scholarships.
Once again, she's trying to attack him as a father. Now, when he gets at her, she's going to get emotional. That's the thing with the liberal media. They can dish it out, but they can't take it. Now, if he was going to attack her back and say, you get this pass because you're a female, but look at you, you're 30 plus years old, you're still not married. What is your worth? What's your point if a man does not even want to make a commitment to you? You're here talking about men's sports. How come you're not talking about women's sports, but you're supposed to be a woman? Right? If he said that, he'd be wrong.
But then he didn't actually execute, really, with the scholarship. So what are we standing on now?
There was nothing for him to execute. Once he got his sons a scholarship, all he had to do was step back. It was of his will that he decided to take his sons out of those programs. It wasn't like he helped his sons or assisted his sons in getting accepted to those colleges and he fucked up in some way. He willingly took them out because that was his choice. That was his option. We're always told in this society that women have a choice. It's interesting that when men execute a choice, that there seems to be some ideological issue.
Now, and when you go into business with someone, and you know probably when you started your blog, you go in with people that you trust. You can't trust this man.
Why? Did he cheat on you?
And then also, he's a walking liability. He will say something controversial at any minute,
and everything that he said has resulted in more revenue.
It also really bothers me that he's looking for 80-plus players to fill this team, and that there are 80-plus young people who are going to be influenced by this role model who treats women terribly.
Well, that's the point. That's really what you were getting at. It took you a long time to get there, but it's about time that you got there. That should have been the first thing that you said. I don't understand how he treats women terribly. Is there some type of ledger of maltreatment towards his wife? Because that's the only woman that really matters in his life. You don't matter. And I don't know why I have to keep touching on this topic on this channel, but I guess I do have to keep touching on it because the mindset of the average modern liberal female is so delusional. These women are so lonely. They think that they should be treated the same way as how you treat your mother or your woman. I'm sorry, but if you're not a woman in my family or the woman I'm dealing with, you're just a piece of pussy walking around. Unless you show me that you're somebody who's respectable. If I don't know you, then it is what it is. You get common respect befitting a human being. But once you show that you don't deserve respect, as she showed when she decided she was going to lambaste him as a father, as she still continues to do, I thought he treated her in a light way. I thought he went light on her. He could have went way harder. But we all know that if he does go way harder, then he's going to be the bad guy. There's going to come a time when men are not going to give a damn anymore. The mindset of the woman is really being fatted up. You know, like how they say that you fatten up a lamb or a calf for the slaughter. The woman's mind and her spirit is being fatted up for her to be humbled very soon. Because the woman has been taught things, ideologies, and concepts that are deleterious to her. She's being taught that she can dress or speak however she wants, and it's destroying them. You can look at this woman, Leahy, and I've been telling you brothers this for months now, that she has mental problems. The statements that she's making regarding LaVar Ball and his quote-unquote treatment of women is predicated off of what he told her when she tried to harass him on air and he did not succumb to it, and also when he checked the female referee, which is in his right. Male referees take way more abuse than I've seen any female referee take. If you can't take the heat, stay the fuck out the kitchen. That's how it goes. I've seen male sportscasters get lambasted by athletes. If you can't deal with it, don't put up that microphone.
And actively promotes a shirt that says "Stay in your lane."
Well,
yeah, because you should stay in your lane, right? You have a job in the lane to do. If you can stay in your lane, maybe your man would have proposed to you. That's just how it goes. When people don't know their lane, like LaVar Ball stated so well, when you don't stay in your lane, what happens? You get into a crash, you get into an accident. That's what occurs. So we all must stay in our lane. That just does not apply to females. When you don't stay in your lane, you get into an accident.
Well,
That's
just keep
scary.
in mind, they'll be playing. Jerry Richardson owned, the Carolina Panthers. Donald Sterling owned the L.A. Clippers.
Yeah.
LaVar Ball, shady character, but they're shady characters.
If LaVar Ball is a shady character, does he have some type of an arrest record? Once again, it's funny how these people, they get on TV and they slander this man. If he has a history of treating women poorly, at least with Floyd Mayweather, they were able to say, look, he was accused of this, he was accused of that, he was arrested for this, and he was arrested for that. Is there some form of a ledger of LaVar Ball mistreating his wife? Is there a ledger of LaVar Ball being engaged in shady financial dealings? It's funny that when people don't like you, they'll go out of their way to try to create an atmosphere around you to make themselves feel like what they have to say is something that is legitimate. It's very clear that LaVar Ball frightens people.
I know, but if
Rick
we know they're
Pitino,
shady,
and
if we know they're shady, let's not keep elevating them.
Now you see how she goes over out of her way to talk over the men on the panel as if what she has to say is of greater import. That is a dynamic that the males in America have allowed to develop and fester. This is why I say the liberal female in America is being fatted up. She's being plumped up to be humbled. It's going to be a very, very bad humbling. Because when it comes, it's going to be very traumatic for them. But you need trauma in life in order for you to gain proper perspective.
To Milwaukee.
But anyway, that is LaVar Ball. Someone who's always thinking, once again, while people are busy liking what he's doing, he's thinking. While people are busy not liking what he's doing, he's thinking. What does that mean? What people think about him does not affect his process. That's all life is about. You cannot let anyone or anybody affect your process, because while they're worried about you, it's taking time away from their development. LaVar Ball is worried about himself and his family and what's relevant and how he can move on to the next level. That's why every time you turn around, he's got a new idea, a new concept that's going to make him more money. That's how it goes. But anyway, peace.